The billionaire's daughter had not spoken in 18 months, not at her mother's funeral, not during therapy, not even when her father, Nathan Caldwell, brought 4 elegant women into the ballroom and told her she could choose the woman he should marry, the one who made her feel safest. The women came prepared. One carried a white puppy. Another brought a diamond bracelet small enough for a child. Victoria Lane, Nathan's family advisor, and the woman everyone expected him to choose, knelt before Emily with the soft, practiced smile of someone who believed the decision had already been made. Emily looked past all of them. At the far end of the room, a poor seamstress was repairing the hem of an old blue dress Caroline Caldwell had once worn. Her name was Anna Reyes. She had entered through the service door. No one had introduced her. No one expected her to matter. Then Anna leaned over her sewing basket. A small brass key slipped free from the worn cord around her neck. Emily stood so quickly that her chair struck the marble floor. She crossed the ballroom, pushed past Victoria, and wrapped both hands around Anna's wrist. For the first time since the night of the accident, Emily spoke. "Daddy," she whispered, "she has Mommy's key." Every face turned toward Anna. Victoria rose slowly. "Please ask security to close the doors." Anna did not run. She looked at Nathan and said, "Your wife gave it to me 3 days before the accident." Nathan took the key from her trembling hand. A crooked star had been carved into the metal. Caroline used to mark only one kind of object that way, things she believed someone would try to make disappear. Before Nathan could ask what the key opened, Emily lifted the blue dress and revealed 4 hidden words stitched into the reverse side of the lining. The 4 words had been sewn so faintly that Nathan could see them only when Anna held the lining toward the chandelier. "Count the blue stitches." Victoria remained beside the table while security closed the ballroom doors. She did not raise her voice or touch the key. That composure had steadied Nathan through 18 months of funerals, board meetings, and specialists who spoke about Emily as if she were a locked room. Tonight, it unsettled him. "This can be handled privately," Victoria said. "The guests should be allowed to leave." Nathan looked toward the crowd. Phones were already appearing between shoulders. He had invited investors, hospital trustees, and families whose names could move markets. By morning, the story would not be about his engagement plans. It would be about the silent Caldwell child choosing a stranger from the service entrance. "Take everyone to the East Salon," he told security. "No one posts anything from this house." Victoria's expression tightened for less than a second. "Nathan, that sounds like detention. It sounds like caution." Anna stood near the sewing table with Emily still holding her wrist. Up close, Nathan noticed the frayed cuff of Anna's coat and the small burn mark on one finger. She did not look like a woman who had prepared for a confrontation with a billionaire. She looked like someone who had expected to finish a repair, collect a modest payment, and leave unnoticed. "Start with the key," Nathan said. Mrs. Bell had found a faded South Harbor repair label inside the dress and called the workshop directly, without sending the request through the foundation office. Anna had been the only seamstress available that afternoon. Anna swallowed. "Caroline came to the South Harbor Community Workshop 3 days before the crash. She used her first name. She asked me to replace the lining, but she took the dress back before I finished. She said she needed to add something herself. You expect me to believe my wife visited a neighborhood sewing room without telling anyone? I don't expect you to believe anything yet." The answer irritated him because it was careful, not defensive. Victoria stepped closer. "Caroline's schedule from that week is documented. There was no workshop visit." Anna looked at her. "Then the schedule is wrong." Emily pressed herself against Anna's side. Nathan saw it and felt the old failure rise in him. He had spent 18 months paying people to help his daughter feel safe. Therapists, speech specialists, private tutors, a child psychiatrist from Boston. Yet Emily had crossed a ballroom for a woman she had never publicly met, or perhaps had met where no one had bothered to look. "Why wait 18 months?" Nathan asked. "Because your wife told me to wait until Emily recognized the key herself. That makes no sense. She said adults in this house would ask the wrong questions first." Victoria gave a restrained breath. "Convenient." Anna's face colored, but she did not retreat. "I called the foundation twice after the accident. Both times I was told Caroline had no record of working with me. The second caller warned me that keeping her property could be treated as theft." Nathan turned to Victoria. "She managed the foundation's legal correspondence." "I never heard about those calls," she said. "A junior employee may have screened them." It was plausible. Caldwell offices received hundreds of claims after Caroline's death, former partners, distant friends, people carrying photographs and promises. Nathan had approved strict filters himself. That knowledge did not comfort him. He examined the brass key. The crooked star near its teeth had been cut by hand. Caroline used the same mark on storage boxes she wanted saved during renovations. Once, laughing, she had called it protection against Nathan's habit of clearing away anything that looked unfinished. "What does it open?" he asked. "I don't know," Anna said. "She never told me." Security tested the key on Caroline's jewelry case, her writing desk, the memorial cabinet, and the small safe hidden behind the library painting. It fit none of them. With every failed lock, Victoria's argument gained weight. Emily finally released Anna and approached the dress. She touched the reversed letters, then pointed to the narrow blue thread running beneath the hem. Anna lowered herself beside her. "You want me to count it?" Emily nodded. There were 4 separate clusters of blue stitches, almost invisible against the darker fabric. Anna counted them twice. 11, 3, 8, 42. Nathan wrote the numbers on a card. They meant nothing until he saw the last pair as a time. November 3rd, 8:42 p.m. He opened the secure foundation portal on his phone and searched Caroline's access history. The official audit showed no login from her account that night, but Nathan remembered that date. At 8:42, Caroline had called him during a board dinner. He had silenced the phone after their argument and let it ring until it stopped. Anna studied his face. What happened that night? Nathan did not answer. He requested the raw server history instead of the summarized audit. A warning appeared. Archive data requires legal administrator approval. The administrator listed beneath it was Victoria Lane. Then Emily reached under the sewing table and placed one finger over Victoria's name. Victoria did not remove her hand from the tablet when Nathan asked for access to the archived server. "The request will trigger a legal log," she said. "If you open historical financial data during a public event, the board will ask why. Then let them ask. That answer will not protect you from an internal investigation." Nathan glanced at Emily. She had moved closer to Anna and was watching the seamstress fold the dress with precise, careful hands. "Approve it," he said. Victoria entered her credentials. A notice appeared stating that archived records could take 48 hours to restore from backup. Nathan knew that was possible. Old data was moved off the active network after each annual audit. He also knew 48 hours was enough time to alter a story. Victoria turned toward security. "The guests have waited long enough. We should release them before this becomes a spectacle." Nathan allowed it. Within minutes, the ballroom emptied through side exits. Some guests avoided looking at Anna. Others stared openly. Emily stayed beside her. Nathan dismissed everyone except Victoria, the head of security, and Mrs. Bell, a housekeeper who had served the family since before Emily was born. "Was there another place Caroline used that this key might open?" he asked. Mrs. Bell studied it through her glasses. "Not in the main house." Victoria crossed her arms. "We tested the obvious locks. Mrs. Caldwell had the garden workroom." Nathan pictured the low stone building behind the west greenhouse. Caroline had called it her escape from committee meetings. He had not entered it since the winter before her death. "It was sealed after the accident," Victoria said. "At Nathan's request." "At my request?" "You wanted her personal rooms preserved until Emily was ready." He remembered signing the order. He did not remember reading the attached inventory. They crossed the dark garden under a fine November rain. Mrs. Bell held an umbrella over Emily, but the child slipped from beneath it and walked close to Anna instead. Anna shortened her steps so Emily would not have to hurry. The workroom smelled of linen, dust, and dried lavender. Fabric rolls stood along one wall beneath white sheets. Near the rear window sat an old walnut sewing desk with 3 drawers. Emily went directly to it. Nathan noticed Victoria stop inside the doorway. "You knew this was here," he said. "I helped catalogue Caroline's belongings." "Then why didn't you mention it?" "The key is brass. The desk hardware is iron." Anna knelt beside the desk. The upper drawer had a wide iron keyhole. The second had no lock. The lowest was hidden behind a carved wooden panel. Emily touched the panel twice. Anna pressed where she indicated. A narrow brass keyhole appeared. The key turned. Inside lay a cloth-bound pattern book, a wooden doll with one red button missing, a folded supplier invoice, and a small music box painted with blue birds. There were no bank records, no accusation, and no explanation from Caroline. Victoria's shoulders relaxed. "A sewing drawer," she said. "That is what the key opened." Nathan picked up the invoice. It came from Lighthouse Pediatric Mobility and listed adaptive seating systems, walking supports, and custom wheelchairs. The total was just under $200,000. The paper was dated 14 months before Caroline's death. Nathan recognized the foundation's logo, but not the authorization code. "Did your workshop receive any of this equipment?" he asked Anna. "No. We altered clothing so children could use equipment they already had." Victoria took the invoice. Lighthouse was one of dozens of suppliers. "It lists South Harbor Community Workshop as the delivery site," Anna said. "That building has no loading entrance. You couldn't deliver this much equipment without blocking the street." Nathan called the foundation's finance director and read the invoice number aloud. "That code isn't in the active ledger," the man said. "Check the archive." "I can't access archived vendor records without legal authorization." Nathan looked at Victoria. "I'll send approval in the morning," she said. "We should not have staff manipulating backups at night." "It's 9:30, Anna said. Victoria turned to her. "And you are not part of this foundation." Anna lowered her eyes, but Emily touched her sleeve. Anna opened the pattern book. Most pages showed measurements, sketches, and fabric samples for children who used braces, feeding tubes, or wheelchairs. Caroline's handwriting filled the margins with practical notes. Softer seams, wider openings, hidden fasteners that would not press against skin. Nathan had known his wife cared about the program. He had not known she designed for it herself. Tucked between 2 pages was a photograph of Caroline sitting on the floor of Anna's workshop beside 3 children. Anna stood behind her holding yellow cloth. On the back, Caroline had written, "Let them move without asking permission." Nathan held up the photograph. "How many times did she come?" "5 that I saw. Maybe more when I was out making deliveries." "Why use another name?" "She said rich people were treated differently before they had earned it." Victoria gave a quiet, humorless laugh. "A photograph proves contact. It does not prove Caroline trusted her with financial evidence." Anna did not argue. She turned a page and found a child's sleeve marked with 3 colored pins. Emily leaned closer. "Your mother used blue for comfort, red for danger, and yellow when something had to be checked twice," Anna said. "She let you choose the system." Emily touched the yellow cloth in the photograph, then pointed to herself. "You remember helping?" Anna asked. Emily nodded. Nathan had been told not to question her too directly, not to reward speech, not to turn memory into a test. Anna seemed to understand without being instructed. She left space after each question and accepted a gesture as an answer. For the first time that evening, Emily's shoulders loosened. Emily reached for the wooden doll. One red coat button was missing, leaving a loop of dark thread. She examined the empty space, then looked toward the miniature Caldwell house on a shelf above the cutting table. "Was that always here?" Nathan asked. Mrs. Bell shook her head. "It belonged in Emily's nursery." Emily placed the doll beside the model's tiny front door, tapped the missing button, and pointed inside. "She wants us to find something," Anna said. Victoria stepped forward. "Or she is playing." Emily's expression closed. Anna sat on the floor beside her and opened the music box. The mechanism clicked. Anna wound it carefully. 6 notes played before the tune stopped halfway through a phrase. Emily tapped the missing continuation against the wooden floor. 6 beats. Pause. 3 beats. Pause. 4 beats. Nathan recognized the pattern from the dress. Caroline had hidden numbers inside ordinary things. Anna removed the base plate with a sewing awl. The metal cylinder had been installed backward. When she reversed it, the melody played farther, though it still ended before the final line. Under the cylinder was a strip of paper containing a vendor identification number whose final 3 digits were 634, followed by 3 handwritten words, "Check who received." Victoria examined it without touching it. "That could refer to routine delivery confirmation. Then there should be receipts," Nathan said. He asked the finance director to search the current vendor directory for Lighthouse Pediatric Mobility. The answer came within minutes. The company had been dissolved 6 months before the date on the invoice. A supplier that no longer existed had billed his foundation nearly $200,000 for equipment delivered to a building that could not receive it. Beside him, Emily opened the miniature house and reached into the space behind its staircase. Her fingers came back empty. Whatever she had hidden there was already gone. The empty compartment inside the miniature house was no larger than a matchbox. Nathan turned the model toward the light. A pale rectangle marked the dust behind the staircase, and 2 fresh scratches crossed the wood. Something had rested there for a long time. Someone had searched for it recently. "Who has been in this room?" Mrs. Bell glanced toward the door. Housekeeping was told not to enter after Mrs. Caldwell died. Only the inventory team. "Who led it?" Victoria answered. "I did," with 2 staff members and an appraiser. Every item was photographed. Show me the photographs. They're in the estate archive, which you administer. So did Caroline, Victoria said. And so do you, when you choose to use it. For 18 months, Nathan had signed whatever preserved the house, the company, and Emily's treatment schedule. Victoria had filled the spaces his grief left open. Now every document seemed to lead back to something he had approved without reading closely enough. Anna ran one finger along the model's rear panel and found a strand of red thread caught beneath a hinge. The missing button. Emily nodded. You put it there? Anna asked. Another nod. When? Emily looked at Caroline's black ribboned photograph, then opened both hands 3 times. 3 days before the funeral, Nathan asked. Emily lowered her eyes. While adults planned memorials and issued statements, his daughter had already been hiding something she believed mattered. Nathan crouched beside her. What was inside it? Emily looked at Anna instead. She may not know how to answer without feeling tested, Anna said. I'm her father. That doesn't make the question easier. Nathan almost dismissed her, but Emily's fingers had tightened around the doll. He stepped back. Anna opened the pattern book to a blank page, placed 3 colored pencils beside it, and turned away slightly. Emily drew a red circle, a black line through its center, and a narrow rectangle beneath it. A paper strip inside the button, Anna said. Emily tapped the drawing. Nathan ordered security to review everyone who had entered the workroom since Caroline's death. The electronic lock had been disabled during the estate inventory and replaced with a mechanical latch. No complete access record existed. Who authorized that? The preservation order came through legal, the security chief said. Victoria remained composed. Facilities recommended the change. Electronic locks fail in unused buildings. The archived inventory photographs arrived 10 minutes later. The model appeared in 6 images, but none showed the open rear panel. The blue dress had been photographed only from the front. Whoever documented the room had followed a checklist designed to prove that objects existed, not to record their hidden compartments. Nathan enlarged the timestamps. The photographs had been uploaded over 3 days by 2 different accounts. One belonged to the appraiser. The other carried only the initials, VL. Victoria read the screen. I reviewed the inventory after the appraiser finished. That was my job. You opened the model? I don't remember touching it. The answer was neither admission nor denial. Nathan saved the files before the archive could be updated again. The explanation remained reasonable. It also placed the evidence beyond easy verification. Nathan photographed the scratches and thread, then carried the invoice and vendor number to Caroline's library. Anna and Emily followed with the pattern book, doll, and music box. He searched the Foundation's approval logs for Lighthouse Pediatric Mobility. There were 12 payments. 6 had been authorized through his executive credentials. One approval appeared while he was speaking at a conference in Toronto. Another was recorded during his flight to Singapore. A third had been issued while he was under anesthesia after a skiing accident. I didn't approve these. Victoria leaned over the screen. You authorized delegated signing during travel for routine grants, not vendor creation. The policy changed during the expansion. Caroline wanted equipment requests processed faster. Nathan found the policy. His digital signature appeared at the bottom. He remembered the meeting. Caroline had argued that children should not wait months for wheelchairs because executives feared paperwork. Nathan had agreed to streamline approval. He had never considered how broadly the language might be used. Anna stood near the window. Victoria noticed. You seem disappointed. I'm trying not to decide what anything means before it's checked. That is responsible for someone who arrived carrying property that was not hers. Anna's jaw tightened. Enough, Nathan said. Victoria faced him. I am trying to protect Emily from a public scandal built around incomplete evidence. Then help me identify who used my credentials. I already said I would. Emily sat near the fireplace, turning the doll in her hands. 3 uneven stitches crossed the coat lining near its shoulder. Anna noticed them first. These aren't Caroline's. The thread was thick and pulled too tight, the work of a child learning to sew. Emily touched her chest. You made them? She nodded. Anna counted the stitches and their spacing. 2, 7, 1. Or 3 repairs, Victoria said. Emily threw the doll onto the rug. Nathan saw shame close across her face. Victoria had turned her attempt to communicate into something foolish. He picked up the doll and placed it on the table. They are numbers until we prove otherwise. Emily watched him, then sat again. Nathan searched Foundation records for 271. It matched no invoice, room, grant, or employee number. He added it to a separate file labeled Unresolved Location Code and sent copies to a forensic accountant outside the company. The accountant replied that screenshots were not proof. He would need authentication logs, device records, and the original authorization trail. Until then, the payments showed misuse of Nathan's credentials, not who had misused them. It was his first decision that night without Victoria's approval. His second was calling St. Matthew's Hospital. Emily had been treated there after Caroline's crash. The official summary stated that she had remained silent from the moment police brought her in. Nathan asked for every nurse assigned to pediatric observation that night. Marisol Vega answered from the hospital break room shortly before midnight. She remembered Emily because the child had arrived wearing one shoe and clutching torn blue fabric. She spoke once, Marisol said. Nathan leaned toward the screen. What did she say? I wrote it in my shift notes, but it disappeared from the final summary. She woke up frightened and said, Victoria changed the road. Nathan looked at Victoria. She did not look away. I changed the ambulance route because reporters had gathered at the main entrance. Emily was sedated and confused. Marisol frowned. That may be what she meant. Did you report it? To the resident. He called it trauma language. The explanation fit the known events. Reporters had followed the ambulance, which entered through a service road. Yet Nathan's anger began arranging separate facts into a conclusion he had not earned. You changed the route, he said. I protected your daughter from cameras. Did Caroline know? Victoria's expression hardened. Be careful, Nathan. Anna interrupted before his fear became an accusation. You don't know what Emily meant. You heard the nurse. I heard a sentence from a terrified child after an accident. If you decide it proves murder, you are doing what everyone did to Emily, putting your meaning into her words. Nathan wanted Anna to accuse Victoria. It would have made the fear simpler. Instead, she refused to give him certainty. Marisol agreed to request her original notes, but hospital counsel would have to approve their release. After the call, Emily pressed the doll's empty button loop and pointed toward the blue dress. You moved it? Anna asked. Emily nodded. They returned to the sewing table. One section of the inner hem had been repaired with thread slightly darker than the rest. Anna opened 3 stitches and removed a flat red button no larger than a coin. Emily had hidden it in the model before the funeral, then moved it after someone searched the workroom. The button separated along a nearly invisible seam. Inside was a narrow strip of paper. 2 words had been written in Caroline's hand. Briar desacete. By 7 the next morning, Briar had become 3 different things. In the Foundation's property system, it was Briar Educational Annex, a decommissioned training site outside the city. In the insurance records, it was a climate-controlled storage facility. In Caroline's handwritten notes, it appeared only as a thorn drawn beside the number 17. Nathan requested immediate access. The response arrived from Caldwell, legal within 12 minutes. Property under third-party management. Entry requires dual authorization. One authorization belonged to the Foundation chair. The other belonged to Victoria. Nathan called her from Caroline's library. You already know what I'm going to ask. I know you found another fragment, Victoria said. That is not the same as finding context. Approve access to Briar, not without counsel present. You approved the garden inventory without counsel. That was personal property. Briar contains beneficiary records. Some involve minors. Her objection was legally sound. It was also useful to her. Nathan told outside counsel to prepare a preservation notice covering Room 17, vendor files, access logs, and any materials connected to Lighthouse Pediatric Mobility. Counsel warned that a notice would preserve evidence, but would not automatically grant entry. The site manager could refuse them until the ownership dispute was clarified. How long? Best case, several hours. Worst case, we seek an emergency order. Several hours felt too long after 18 months. Anna stood near the doorway, reading the copied invoice again. Emily had fallen asleep on the library sofa with the wooden doll tucked under her arm. You can't take her there, Anna said. I wasn't planning to. She'll think you're leaving her out. She is 8. She is the reason we know the room exists. Nathan looked at his daughter. Emily had spent the night communicating through stitches, objects, and a sentence adults had misrecorded. He did not want to turn her into an investigator. He also understood that excluding her without explanation would repeat the same mistake. When Emily woke, Nathan showed her a photograph of Briar Annex on his phone. We're going to check this place, he said. You're staying with Mrs. Bell because it may not be safe or legal for you to enter. Emily's mouth tightened. Nathan added, That does not mean we are ignoring you. He placed the red button and Caroline's note in a clear evidence envelope where Emily could see them. Then he asked her to choose which object from the workroom should remain with her. She chose the music box. It was the first decision he had offered instead of making for her. Briar Annex sat behind a line of bare trees 30 miles north of the city. The building had once been a school for physical therapy aides, but its classrooms had been converted into storage cages and administrative offices. The manager, Lewis Crane, met Nathan and Anna at the front entrance. "I was told no one enters room 17, he said. "By whom?" "Foundation Legal." Nathan showed him the preservation notice. Crane read the first page and shook his head. "This tells me not to destroy anything. It does not tell me to let you inside." Nathan could have threatened him with dismissal. He nearly did. Then he noticed the Caldwell logo had been removed from the manager's badge. "Who employs you now?" "Briar Asset Services." Nathan searched the company on his phone. It had acquired the management contract 4 months after Caroline's death. The registered agent was a law firm used by the foundation. It was not proof, only another layer between Nathan and the records. Outside counsel joined them by video and negotiated limited access. Nathan could inspect the room as a foundation officer, but he could not remove documents or photograph beneficiary names until privacy review. Crane unlocked the second floor. Room 17 was almost empty. 4 pale rectangles marked the concrete floor where cabinets had stood. Dust covered most of the room, except for parallel tracks leading to the freight elevator. A broken plastic seal lay near the wall. Anna picked it up with a handkerchief. "Recent?" Nathan asked. "The plastic hasn't yellowed." Crane checked the inventory tablet. 3 cabinets were transferred last year. "Where?" "The form says Records Consolidation." "Which site?" "No destination listed." Nathan photographed the floor and seal without capturing any names. In a waste bin beneath the window, Anna found narrow strips of cotton lining, each cut from a different garment. Some carried faded blue or yellow stitches. "These were removed deliberately," she said. "The cuts follow the seams." Nathan remembered Caroline's habit of hiding information in hems. A metal shelf remained against the rear wall. On it sat a box labeled Adaptive Garments Unclaimed. Inside were children's jackets, trousers with side openings, and shirts modified for medical ports. Every identifying tag had been removed. Anna turned over a small grey coat. The lining had been sliced open. Someone had searched the clothing. Nathan found a paper list wedged beneath the box. It contained 17 surnames, age ranges, equipment codes, and dates. No first names, no addresses. The codes matched numbers from the lighthouse invoice. 17 children, he said. "Or 17 files made to look like children," Anna replied. Crane glanced toward the hall. "I was told these were abandoned fittings." "Who told you?" "Miss Lane's office." Footsteps approached before Nathan could ask more. Victoria entered with Foundation Counsel and the Chief Financial Officer, Martin Keene. She wore the same navy suit from the night before, though Nathan doubted she had slept in it. "You forced access before privacy review," she said. "I accepted limited access negotiated by counsel and brought an outsider into a room containing protected records." Anna placed the grey coat back in the box. "There are no names left to protect." Victoria looked at the cut lining, "Which is exactly why nothing here proves what you think." Nathan handed counsel the list. "Preserve this room, the transfer records, and every communication about those cabinets." Counsel nodded, but Victoria said, "The board must authorize a forensic hold that broad. You approved the original transfer. I approved consolidation. I did not personally move cabinets." Martin Keene stepped toward her. "We should discuss this privately." They moved into the corridor, leaving the door partly open. Nathan remained near the threshold while counsel photographed the room. Anna crouched beside the waste bin. Victoria's voice carried through the gap. "Once the custody review closes, no one reopens Caroline's access history." Keene answered too quietly for Nathan to hear. "And the missing invoices?" he asked. "They will look exactly like what they were meant to look like." Nathan moved closer. Keene said, "If he gets the original garments." A cart rattled past in the hall, covering the rest. Victoria noticed Nathan at the door. For one measured second, neither of them spoke. Then she addressed the site manager. "Mr. Crane, has Miss Reyes signed a confidentiality agreement?" "No." "Then she has been exposed to protected beneficiary material without authorization." "There were no complete identities," Nathan said. "That is not for you to determine in the moment." Foundation Counsel agreed that Anna had to leave until the privacy issue was resolved. Nathan argued, but the lawyer warned that continued non-compliance could taint any later investigation and expose the foundation to claims from real families. The system was not defending Victoria openly. It was defending process. And process, Nathan realized, could be used as a wall. Anna handed him the handkerchief containing the broken seal. "Don't let anyone throw this away," she said. Security escorted her downstairs. Nathan remained long enough to watch counsel seal room 17. He requested the freight elevator logs, transfer manifests, and building surveillance. Crane reported that footage older than 90 days had been automatically deleted. By the time Nathan returned home, Emily was in the garden workroom with Mrs. Bell. The music box sat open beside her. Anna had not come back. Emily looked toward the doorway, then at Nathan. "She was removed because the lawyers said she could not stay," he explained. "She did not leave you." Emily touched the blue dress hanging over the work table. A yellow tag had been attached to its sleeve. Biological contamination, mold exposure. Below the warning was a disposal order scheduled for 10 the following morning. The authorization bore Victoria Lane's signature. It had been issued 43 minutes after Emily revealed the backward words in the lining. At 9:12 the next morning, Nathan stood in the garden workroom with a written preservation order in one hand and the blue dress in the other. The disposal contractor had arrived early. 2 men in grey coveralls waited outside with a sealed container for contaminated textiles. Victoria's order classified the dress as a biological risk, allowing it to be destroyed without re-entering the estate inventory. Nathan handed them the preservation notice. "This item is under legal hold. Our work order came from Foundation Council," one man said. "It has been superseded." The man called his supervisor. For 6 minutes, everyone waited while the dress lay beneath clear plastic on the cutting table. Emily stood near Mrs. Bell, holding the music box. She had not spoken since Anna was removed from Briar. Victoria entered before the call ended. "You are overriding a contamination recommendation without an inspection," she said. "I requested an independent textile conservator, and until that person arrives, the dress stays here." Victoria looked toward Emily. This is exactly the kind of escalation her doctors warned against. Nathan did not argue about Emily in front of her. The supervisor confirmed the hold. The contractors left. By noon, Dr. Helena Morris, a museum textile conservator, had examined the fabric, the storage room, and the yellow tag. She found no active mold. There were faint watermarks near one seam, but nothing requiring immediate destruction. "The contamination label is unsupported," she said. "Who issued it?" Victoria answered. "A facilities contractor reported an odor." Dr. Morris checked the paperwork. "There is no sample result or inspection signature." "Then the process was incomplete," Victoria said. Nathan noticed how easily she turned a false certainty into a clerical failure. Dr. Morris photographed every seam before allowing Anna to return. Nathan had insisted that the person who understood Caroline's stitching be present, but Anna arrived under a confidentiality agreement with outside counsel beside her. She looked exhausted. "What happened?" Nathan asked. "My workshop suspended me. Someone sent our landlord an article saying I stole from your family." His phone showed 23 unread messages. The headline appeared beneath a photograph of Anna entering through the service gate, "Billionaire's Grief, Exploited by Debt-Ridden Seamstress." The story listed her late rent and quoted an unnamed source claiming she had encouraged a traumatized child to reject professional care. Nathan asked the reporter for the source documents behind the story. The newspaper sent only a statement that the information had been independently verified. Anna's rent notice was real, but the workshop had never released it. Someone had obtained private records, combined them with accurate details, and arranged them into a version of events that made every fact point toward greed. "Can you prove who supplied it?" Anna asked. "Not yet." "Then don't promise me you can fix it." Her refusal sounded less like mistrust than experience. Victoria read over his shoulder. "I warned you the public would simplify this." "Did your office speak to the reporter?" "No." It was an answer narrow enough to leave several doors open. Anna put on cotton gloves and studied the dress. "The lining was open before," she said. "Not only near the words." Dr. Morris angled a lamp across the fabric. Under the side seam, tiny punctures ran beneath newer thread. Anna removed the replacement stitches one at a time. A strip of waxed paper appeared between the lining and outer fabric, then another. By the time she reached the waist, they had found 11 narrow strips folded into the seams. Each carried dates, vendor initials, quantities, and authorization numbers. Caroline had disguised the entries as sewing measurements. One line read, LPM 24, 09 a 14, NC overe. Another listed 7 pediatric standing frames, priced at nearly 3 times market value. Nathan called the forensic accountant he had contacted the night before. By late afternoon, the accountant arrived with 2 assistants and evidence scanners. "These are leads," he said, "not conclusions. They match foundation payment codes. They appear to. We still need bank records, vendor files, delivery confirmations, and handwriting authentication." Anna pointed to a yellow mark beside 3 entries. Caroline used yellow when something had to be checked twice. The 3 marked entries referenced deliveries to South Harbor Community Workshop. Anna shook her head. "None of them came there. Can anyone else confirm that?" "The building manager. Parents. The shop across the street." "Good. We need independent corroboration." For the first time since the ballroom, the evidence had moved beyond family memory. It still named no criminal, but it could be tested. Nathan ordered a full forensic audit of the Foundation's mobility program. Victoria objected in writing. Her memorandum warned that an uncontrolled review could expose medical information, violate donor agreements, destabilize grants, and damage the Caldwell name before facts were established. The board approved only a limited review of Lighthouse Pediatric Mobility and required Victoria's legal team to supervise access to beneficiary records. Nathan read the resolution twice. "They are putting her office inside the audit." Outside counsel nodded. "She is still the legal administrator. Then the review is compromised." "Not necessarily, but every request can be delayed or challenged." The accountant began with records that did not require beneficiary names. 12 Lighthouse invoices had been paid over 18 months. The money passed through 2 banks and 3 subcontractors. Each subcontractor had tax filings, registered addresses, and references. "A weak fraud hides," the accountant said. "A strong one performs legitimacy." One subcontractor had purchased real equipment. Shipping records showed wheelchairs and braces leaving a warehouse, but not who received them. 5 disputed delivery confirmations carried the name Darren Cole, a logistics supervisor for one of Lighthouse's subcontractors. His listed number had been disconnected, and certified letters to his last address had been returned. The accountant flagged him as a missing witness rather than treating his signature as proof. Another billed for custom seating systems using serial numbers assigned to equipment manufactured years earlier. By evening, the audit team had confirmed enough irregularities to notify the Foundation's insurers. That was when Victoria produced the accident report. She placed it on Nathan's desk. "I had an outside investigator recheck Caroline's vehicle. The brake control module had been included in a manufacturer recall issued 2 months before the crash. Service records showed the replacement had never been completed. The investigator concluded that intermittent brake failure could explain Caroline's loss of control. For 2 days, every hidden stitch had pulled Nathan toward the possibility that Caroline had been silenced because of what she knew. The report offered a simpler answer. "A defective part. A missed repair. En accident." Victoria sat across from him. "You asked whether I changed the road. I changed the ambulance route. You asked whether I controlled Caroline's records. I administered them because you appointed me. Now you have an engineering explanation for the crash. You expect me to stop the audit. I expect you to separate grief from evidence." He hated that the sentence made sense. The accountant reviewed the report and agreed the recall was real. Nothing in the file suggested tampering. Nathan did not cancel the audit, but the mystery changed shape. Caroline might not have been murdered. The hidden records could concern theft, not death. Anna received the news without relief. If the crash was an accident, someone still searched her workroom afterward, and someone wanted the dress destroyed, Nathan said. Emily sat at the far end of the library while a child therapist observed her. The therapist had arrived after an anonymous complaint alleged that Nathan was involving Emily in an adult investigation. Victoria had not filed the complaint, according to her office. The therapist recommended separating Emily from Anna until the child's memories could be assessed without influence. Nathan refused. The therapist warned that refusal would be documented. Anna heard the exchange from the hall. "She should not lose her father because I stayed," she said. "You are not leaving. I'm not asking what you want." Anna knelt several feet from Emily and placed the wooden doll on the rug. "I may not be allowed to come tomorrow." Emily stared at the empty button loop. "That does not mean I stopped believing you." Emily pushed the doll back without looking up. The accountant interrupted. He had compared the Lighthouse payment file with the beneficiary database. 17 children had complete equipment histories, approval dates, and shipping codes. None had birth certificates, school records, insurance numbers, or medical providers. They did not exist outside the Foundation system. All 17 profiles had been created from the same device. The device identifier belonged to a computer inside Caldwell Manor. The device identifier led to a desktop computer in the small estate office beside the West Pantry. It had been replaced 8 months after Caroline's death. The original hard drive was gone. Nathan stood with the forensic accountant, while the estate's technology director searched old maintenance records. The machine had been shared by household administration, family security, and foundation staff working from the manor. Its login history showed temporary credentials assigned to several people, including Nathan, Victoria, Caroline, and Martin Keene. "That gives us a location," the accountant said, "not a user. Who authorized the replacement?" The technology director checked the archive. The request came from Family Legal. Victoria did not deny it. "The computer failed a security review," she said. "It contained donor information and private medical records. We replaced it under standard policy." "Where is the drive?" "Destroyed by the vendor, according to procedure." Another answer that sounded ordinary until placed beside everything else. The forensic audit continued for 4 days. By the 5th, the accountant found the first structure that made the fraud understandable. Lighthouse Pediatric Mobility had been created by Adrian Lane, Victoria's older brother, 6 years earlier. Adrian had served as an outside consultant to the Caldwell Foundation. He had died of pancreatic cancer 9 months before Caroline. The shell vendors, inflated invoices, and false beneficiary profiles all traced back to contracts he had arranged. At the emergency board meeting, Victoria placed a sealed folder on the table and asked to speak before Nathan presented the findings. "My brother abused access I helped him obtain," she said. "I did not understand the scale of it while he was alive." She did not cry. She admitted that Adrian had struggled with debt after a failed medical device company and said she had believed his consulting work was legitimate. Their mother had lost her home after Adrian's first company collapsed, and Victoria had spent the years since treating institutional failure as another form of violence. She offered to resign temporarily from the foundation, repay any fees connected to him, and cooperate with law enforcement. Board members who had questioned Nathan now praised her transparency. Martin Keene called it a painful but responsible disclosure. The accountant warned that Adrian's involvement did not explain the altered treatment record, the missing garments, or the forged beneficiary profiles created after his death. Victoria agreed. "That is why the investigation should continue," she said. It was the correct answer. Nathan watched the room shift toward her. By naming the dead man first, Victoria had transformed herself from possible participant into grieving relative and whistleblower. The board approved a public statement blaming the fraud on a deceased consultant and promising restitution to affected families. It also announced that Victoria had requested an independent review of her own conduct. Reporters called the response swift and admirable. Anna's name disappeared from the headlines for a day. Nathan wanted to believe the worst had finally acquired a boundary. Adrian had built the system. Victoria might have protected her brother too long, but grief and loyalty could explain hesitation without requiring a larger conspiracy. Then Anna laid the pattern strips from the blue dress across Caroline's cutting table. "They are not only records," she said. The strips varied in length. When arranged by the yellow marks, their edges formed part of a dress pattern. Nathan saw nothing until Anna placed tracing paper over them. A narrow path appeared between the cut lines, ending in a small square marked with Caroline's thorn symbol. Another location. Maybe. But part of the pattern is missing. The missing section corresponded to the strip hidden near the dress's left shoulder, the area repaired with thread that did not match Caroline's work. Nathan requested the original inventory photograph. The image showed the shoulder seam intact. Someone had removed one piece after Caroline's death. Before he could order another search, a courier arrived with legal papers. The petition asked the family court to review Nathan's decision-making authority over Emily. It cited the public ballroom incident, his refusal to follow therapeutic recommendations, his involvement of Anna in Emily's care, and the child's exposure to an active fraud investigation. The filing came from Dr. Samuel Price, the child psychiatrist who had overseen Emily's treatment for the past year. Victoria's name did not appear as petitioner. It appeared in an attached document titled Temporary Continuity of Care Directive. The directive stated that if Nathan became unable to make stable medical decisions, Victoria Lane would coordinate Emily's treatment until the court completed its review. Caroline's signature was at the bottom. Nathan read it twice. "I have never seen this." Victoria stood across the library. "Caroline signed several contingency documents after your father's stroke. This one gives you authority over my daughter. It gives me temporary coordination authority, not custody. Why did you not disclose it? Because it was never activated. It is being used now. By Emily's doctor, not by me. Nathan called outside counsel. The signature appeared valid, the document had been notarized, and the language was narrow enough to survive an immediate challenge. Until a judge reviewed it, the treatment team could recommend moving Emily to a private residential assessment center for 72 hours. Nathan refused consent. The court issued an emergency order before sunset. 2 child welfare officers arrived with Dr. Price and a woman from the treatment center. They spoke calmly, avoided uniforms, and explained that Emily was not being punished. Nathan could challenge the order at a hearing in 3 days. 3 days felt longer than 18 months. Emily stood in the entrance hall with the music box pressed against her chest. Anna had been barred from the property under a temporary no-contact recommendation. Nathan had not told Emily that part yet. He knelt in front of her. "I'm going to fight this the right way," he said. "You are not being sent away because you did something wrong." Emily looked past him toward Victoria. Victoria kept several feet of distance. The center is quiet. No reporters. No questions about the foundation. Emily's fingers tightened around the box. Mrs. Bell helped pack a small bag. When she returned, Emily handed Nathan a loop of blue thread tied around itself in uneven knots. He recognized the colors but not the pattern. She closed his fingers over it. At the doorway, Emily turned once and touched 2 fingers to her throat, then to the music box. Nathan could not tell whether it was a promise, a warning, or a request. He did not ask her to explain. One frightened answer had already been rewritten by adults. He would not force another from her in front of them. Then she left without speaking. The next morning, the Foundation Records warehouse suffered an electrical fire. Sprinklers contained the flames, but water-damaged boxes awaiting forensic review. The fire marshal found no immediate sign of arson. A faulty power strip was listed as the likely cause. The missing transfer manifests from Breyer were among the damaged materials. Before Nathan could reach the site, the Caldwell board suspended him from operational control, pending the custody review and fraud investigation. The statement said the action protected the company from decisions influenced by personal grief. Victoria recused herself from the vote. It passed without opposition. Nathan returned to the manor no longer able to order employees, enter restricted foundation systems, or direct the audit he had begun. Now his name opened fewer doors than the legal process closed. Anna called from a borrowed phone. "I saw the fire. They took Emily. Pause. Show me what she gave you." Nathan photographed the thread loop. Anna enlarged the image and counted the knots. Blue, blue, yellow. 3 close knots. 1 separated, then 4, arranged in pairs. "This is not the system from the dress," Nathan said. "It is Emily's version." Anna rotated the photograph. The knots formed letters the way stitches formed numbers. N, U, Derla. 12 minutes later, Anna called back. "Not the road," she said. "The record." Nathan looked toward the closed library door. Emily had never accused Victoria of changing the ambulance route. She had been trying to tell them that someone changed what she said. Nathan opened the hospital summary again. The file showed 1 revision 3 days after the accident. The approving account belonged to Victoria Lane. Nathan's first morning without the company began at a public records office. He waited beneath fluorescent lights with contractors, lawyers, and parents carrying folders. No assistant held his place. When his number was announced, he submitted a certified request for the original continuity directive, its notarization record, and every filing connected to Emily's transfer. The clerk studied the form. "You're Nathan Caldwell. Today I'm the petitioner." That distinction followed him everywhere. Outside counsel warned that the court would not return Emily simply because the hospital summary had been altered. He needed to show that the directive was unreliable, the treatment process had been compromised, and he could make decisions without turning his daughter's fear into evidence on demand. Nathan began with the signature. Dr. Miriam Holt, an independent forensic document examiner, compared Caroline's signature on the directive with 30 verified samples. The visible strokes were genuine, but their pressure and spacing repeated exactly from an older property authorization. "It is not an imitation," Dr. Holt said. "It is a reproduction." She found faint rectangular compression around the signature block, consistent with an image placed into a digital document before printing. That proves forgery? It proves the signature did not originate on this page. To determine when the page was created, I need printer data, file metadata, or the notary journal. The notary had retired. Her journal showed no appointment with Caroline on the date printed beneath the signature. Still, the missing entry was not enough. Journals could be incomplete. Nathan refused to treat absence as certainty. He next traced the printer. The document footer carried microscopic tracking dots that identified a commercial color printer from the Caldwell legal office. The manufacturer retained service telemetry, but releasing it required a subpoena. Victoria's counsel argued that the data involved privileged legal operations. The judge allowed only a narrow search. The result arrived that evening. The printer had produced the directive 11 days after Caroline's funeral. Nathan read the date twice. Somewhere inside his legal office, someone had assembled a document using Caroline's real signature to prepare for a future fight over their daughter. The device account was listed as legal admin 2. It was shared by 3 employees. Victoria was one of them. The evidence moved closer to her without reaching her hand. Shared credentials still left room for another user. Anna worked separately because the no-contact recommendation still barred her from Emily and the manor. She returned to South Harbor and searched old workshop storage. Caroline had once donated fabric, child-safe fasteners, and a second-hand desktop used for pattern design. The computer no longer started, but Anna found an inventory card taped beneath the desk. Backup, Bluebirds, home warranty. She sent Nathan a photograph. The phrase pointed to the music box and to a service agreement Caroline had purchased for the manor's security system. Nathan contacted the original camera vendor instead of the current estate technology team. The vendor confirmed that Caroline had enrolled several cameras in an extended warranty. To diagnose failures, the company's servers stored low-resolution technical snapshots after device errors. Those files would be gone now, Nathan said. Normally, the technician replied. But your account was placed on legal hold after the owner reported repeated memory card failures. Who was the owner? Caroline Caldwell. She had created the hold 6 days before the crash. The vendor could not release the snapshots without a court order. Nathan added the request to the custody case and disclosed why he believed the material mattered. Victoria's lawyers argued that he was turning family court into a corporate investigation. The judge asked Nathan whether he had ignored Caroline's concerns before her death. He could have answered narrowly. Instead, he said, yes. He described Caroline bringing him payment irregularities he dismissed as audit work, his impatience when she refused to let the issue wait, and the call he ignored at 8:42 on November 3rd. I thought grief made me unreliable, he said. The truth is that I was unreliable before the grief. I trusted systems I controlled more than the person asking me to look at them. The admission weakened his public image. It strengthened his legal position. The judge authorized release of the snapshots and appointed an independent child advocate to review Emily's placement. The recovered images were incomplete. Most showed empty halls or blurred movement. Then the technician opened a sequence from the garden workroom recorded 2 days after Caroline's death. Victoria entered alone. She wore a dark coat and carried a legal inventory folder. For several minutes, she photographed shelves and sealed drawers. Nothing appeared improper. Then she opened the Bluebird music box. In the next surviving snapshot, a small brass key was in her hand, and Caroline's sewing desk stood open. Victoria removed a thick envelope, read the first page, and placed part of its contents inside her folder. She searched the blue dress, opened the model house, and removed the camera's memory card before leaving. The technical snapshots were intermittent. They did not show her returning the key, but the final image placed the music box closed on its original shelf. The snapshots contained no sound. They did not show what was written in the envelope or prove she had created the false invoices, but they destroyed her claim that she did not remember opening the model or touching Caroline's hidden materials. Anna studied the images through a secure call. She is holding something narrow in the third frame. Nathan enlarged it. A strip of waxed paper protruded from Victoria's folder, the missing piece of Caroline's pattern. They sent the sequence to the court-appointed investigator and the forensic accountant. Victoria acknowledged entering the workroom and removing documents under her authority as estate administrator. She said the memory card had failed and was taken for replacement. Any omission from the inventory was clerical, not criminal. Her explanation had narrowed. It had not broken. Nathan still needed proof connecting the hidden papers, altered hospital record, and forged directive to an effort to control Emily. The music box remained at the treatment center with his daughter. The child advocate arranged a supervised visit. Emily sat across from Nathan in a plain room with a round table. She looked thinner than she had 3 days earlier. Nathan did not ask about Victoria or what Emily remembered. He placed a copy of the printer report on the table, far enough away that it was clearly not a test. "I found out the paper was made after Mommy died," he said. "You were right that the record changed." Emily watched him. "I should have listened sooner. That is not your fault." Her eyes moved toward the music box on the shelf. The child advocate brought it over. Emily wound the mechanism, let the first 6 notes play, then stopped it before the broken phrase. She turned the box upside down and tapped twice on the bass. Nathan remembered Anna reversing the cylinder. This time, he noticed a second seam beneath the painted blue birds. The advocate allowed him to open it with a small screwdriver. Inside the false bottom lay a tiny brass key. It matched the one Caroline had given Anna. Wrapped around it was a tracing paper copy of the missing strip from the dress pattern. On the reverse, Caroline had written, "If the first key is found, check who used the second." The consolidated emergency evidentiary hearing began at 9 on Monday morning. Family Court had reserved the larger chamber because the dispute now involved Emily's placement, the forged continuity directive, and evidence tied to a charitable fraud investigation. The judge limited the financial evidence to whether Victoria could retain authority over Emily and whether records required immediate preservation. Criminal liability would remain with state investigators. Exhibits containing children's information were sealed. Nathan sat beside outside counsel. Anna sat behind the court-appointed child advocate. Victoria entered with 3 lawyers and no visible sign of panic. Her position was simple. Adrian Lane had created the fraud, estate staff had mishandled records after Caroline's death, and Nathan was converting administrative failures into a personal accusation because he could not accept that the crash had been an accident. It was a disciplined defense. The forensic document examiner testified first. Caroline's signature on the continuity directive had been copied from a property authorization. Printer telemetry showed the directive was produced after Caroline's funeral. Victoria's attorney emphasized that 3 legal employees had used the shared account. "That is true," Dr. Holt said. "The data identifies the office and account, not the individual at the keyboard." The hospital records administrator followed. The original nurse's note had contained the phrase, "changed the record." 3 days later, the summary had been revised to "changed the road." The approving credentials belonged to Victoria. Again, her lawyer pointed to delegated access. Could another employee have used that account? Yes. Then this is not proof Miss Lane edited the sentence. No, it is proof the sentence was edited through credentials assigned to her. Each fact stopped short of certainty. Together, they reduced the number of innocent explanations. The camera vendor displayed the recovered snapshots from Caroline's workroom. Victoria opened the Bluebird music box. In the next surviving frame, the sewing desk was open and a brass key was in her hand. She removed an envelope, searched the model house, and took the memory card. Victoria did not deny it. "As estate administrator, I was required to secure private material before employees and appraisers entered," she said when called. "Why was the envelope omitted from the inventory?" Nathan's lawyer asked. "I cannot answer for every clerical omission made during a family emergency." "Why did you state that you did not remember opening the model?" "Because I reviewed hundreds of objects during that period." "And the strip visible in your folder? A fragment of paper. I did not know its significance." Anna examined the strip Emily had preserved in the music box. Under magnification, it proved to be a tracing paper copy of the missing pattern segment. Caroline had duplicated the shape before hiding the copy with the second key. Victoria had removed the original segment from the dress. Placed beside the surviving strips, the completed pattern formed a map of Briar Annex and marked a service corridor behind room 17. Investigators had searched that corridor over the weekend. Inside a sealed maintenance cabinet numbered 271, they found a damaged external drive, shipping labels, and original delivery forms. The files were incomplete, but the forms carried names of real families whose children had never received the equipment listed beside them. One witness appeared by secure video. Darren Cole, whose name had appeared on 5 disputed delivery confirmations, had worked for a lighthouse subcontractor. After investigators located him and arranged legal protection, he admitted creating false confirmations when Adrian threatened to end the company's legitimate contracts. "Did Adrian remain your contact after his illness worsened?" the court-appointed investigator asked. "No." "Who replaced him?" Darren looked toward Victoria's table. "Instructions came through Miss Lane's legal office." Her lawyer objected. An office was not a person. The judge allowed the answer but required corroboration. That came from payment schedules recovered on the drive. They were sent from a legal office address and matched dates when Victoria's calendar showed private calls with Darren. Still, Victoria did not collapse into confession. "I was cleaning up my brother's contracts," she said. "I believed Mr. Cole was helping identify unsupported claims. You continued paying him," Nathan's lawyer said, "to prevent disruption while the review continued. You created 17 false beneficiaries after Adrian died. That has not been established." The forensic accountant displayed device logs. The profiles had been created from the Manor computer during 4 evenings when Foundation staff were present for legal review. Door records placed Victoria in the estate office on 3 of those nights. Martin Keane was there on 2. The accountant refused to identify a single user. Nathan understood why the evidence had survived so long. Every action had been divided among shared devices, delegated authority, and language broad enough to sound responsible. The child advocate asked to address Emily's testimony. Emily entered through a side door. No one required her to face the public gallery. She sat at a small table with the advocate, the wooden doll, the music box, 3 colored pencils, and photographs of the workroom. The judge told her she could answer with words, drawings, gestures, or not at all. Emily chose a yellow pencil. She circled the photograph showing Victoria at the sewing desk, then placed the doll beside it. "What does yellow mean?" the advocate asked. Emily whispered, "Check twice." No one asked her to repeat herself. The advocate showed her the hospital note. Emily crossed out road and wrote, "Record." Then she drew a rectangle around Victoria's name. "Did Victoria tell you not to speak?" the advocate asked. Emily shook her head. The advocate waited. Emily picked up the blue pencil and wrote slowly, "Good girls do not repeat confused things." Victoria's lawyer asked whether Caroline had ever used those words. Emily shook her head again. "Who did?" Emily pointed to Victoria. Victoria finally lost some of her composure, though her voice remained level. "I was helping a traumatized child understand that memories after shock can be unreliable." "You taught her that telling the truth would make people call her confused," Nathan said. The judge warned him not to interrupt. Victoria turned toward him. "I kept your company functioning, protected Emily from cameras, and contained a fraud that would have destroyed thousands of jobs. You were unavailable before Caroline died and incapacitated afterward." There was no theatrical admission, only the belief that every boundary she crossed had served a larger necessity. Nathan answered when permitted. "You did not protect the system. You protected the people who controlled it. The children whose names were borrowed were part of that system too." The judge recessed for 40 minutes. When court resumed, the forged directive was suspended. Victoria's authority over Emily's treatment ended immediately. The judge returned medical decision-making to Nathan under independent therapeutic oversight and prohibited Victoria from contacting Emily. The financial evidence was transferred under seal to state investigators and the Attorney General's Charitable Fraud Unit. Nathan did not receive a declaration that every question had been answered. He received responsibility. Emily came to stand beside him after the order. She did not call him Daddy. She placed the small brass key in his palm, closed his fingers around it, and waited for him to understand that this time he was expected to keep what Caroline had tried to protect. The Caldwell Foundation Board met again 2 days after the hearing. This time, no one sat beneath portraits of donors or accepted prepared statements from the legal department. The Attorney General's investigators occupied the back row, and the families whose names had been used in false equipment files were invited to watch. Victoria's chair remained empty. The board voted first to remove her from every legal, financial, and advisory role connected to the foundation. Martin Keane was suspended pending investigation. All mobility program accounts were placed under independent control, and every denied application from the previous 6 years was ordered reopened. Then Nathan stood. He did not speak about betrayal first. He spoke about Anna. "Miss Reyes entered my home through a service door," he said. "I treated that detail as evidence against her before I examined anything she had brought. I trusted titles, wealth, and familiarity more than the person telling me the truth." Anna sat near the aisle in the same dark coat she had worn to the ballroom. Her workshop supervisor had offered to restore her position that morning. She had not yet decided whether to return. Nathan continued. "My daughter was described as confused. Anna was described as opportunistic. The families whose records were stolen were reduced to numbers. Those labels made it easier for people with authority, including me, to stop listening. The board formally withdrew every public accusation made against Anna. A written correction was sent to the newspapers that had repeated the theft claim. The foundation agreed to pay her lost wages and legal expenses, not as charity, but as restitution. Victoria appeared only through her attorney. She was under investigation for fraud, forged records, obstruction, and misuse of medical authority. No verdict had been reached. No sentence had been promised. That mattered. Justice was not a single vote that erased what had happened. It was the long process of making every record visible, every family count, and every person who had been dismissed stand in the room under their own name. When the meeting ended, Anna did not thank Nathan. She simply said, "Now, make sure they finish what they started." Nathan nodded. For once, he understood that an apology was not the end of responsibility. 6 months later, Emily still had quiet days. On those mornings, she answered with taps, drawings, or the colored thread Anna kept in a wooden box near the kitchen window. Nathan no longer treated silence as a failure to be corrected. He learned to wait without turning every pause into a problem. Some days Emily spoke easily. Some days she did not speak at all. Her new therapist called that progress because the choice belonged to her. The criminal investigation into Victoria Lane and Martin Keane was still open. Several charges had been filed, but no trial date had been set. Lawyers continued to argue over access logs, vendor payments, and who had authorized which files. The board had reopened hundreds of equipment cases, yet some families were still waiting for devices that should have reached them years earlier. Nothing had been repaired by one hearing. Nathan spent 2 mornings each week reviewing the mobility program with parents, technicians, and community workers who had previously been excluded from decision-making. He did not chair those meetings. The families did. At first, he interrupted too often. Then he learned to take notes. Anna returned to South Harbor, but not as an employee who could be dismissed the next time a wealthy donor felt uncomfortable. With help from the workshop members, a neighborhood credit union, and the restitution she had received, she bought a small ownership share in the business. Nathan offered to cover the rest. Anna refused. "You are still trying to make guilt look useful," she told him. He did not argue. Their relationship remained undefined. Nathan visited the workshop when invited. Anna came to dinner when she chose. They did not announce anything to the press, and Emily was never asked whether Anna should become part of the family. That question had already caused enough harm. Caroline's adaptive clothing designs were recovered from the workroom and placed under a community licensing agreement. The patterns could be used by any non-profit sewing group that agreed not to charge families for them. Nathan wanted Caroline's name printed across every label. Anna persuaded him otherwise. "Let the children wear clothes," she said. Not a memorial. Only a small, crooked star appeared inside each garment, hidden beneath the care instructions. Emily chose its placement. The blue dress was never returned to the glass memorial case. Dr. Morris preserved it, but Emily asked that it remain folded in Caroline's sewing desk. The backward words were still visible inside the lining. "Count the blue stitches." They no longer felt like an alarm. They felt like proof that Caroline had known someone might eventually listen. One rainy evening, Nathan found Emily at the garden workroom table, trying to sew a yellow button onto the wooden doll. The stitches were uneven. She had pulled one so tightly that the fabric gathered around it. Nathan reached for the sewing kit. Emily covered it with her hand. "I can fix it," she said. He withdrew. Anna arrived a few minutes later carrying bread from the bakery near her apartment. She took off her wet coat and examined the doll without touching it. "The button will hold," she said. "But the coat might complain." Emily smiled and loosened the stitch herself. At dinner, Nathan mentioned that he would be away the following evening for another meeting with investigators. He gave Emily the schedule instead of promising the case would soon be over. She read it carefully. "Will Victoria come back here?" "No," Nathan said. "There is an order keeping her away, but the legal case may take a long time." Emily looked down at her plate. Nathan waited. "I don't want people to say I made it happen." "You didn't. I talked. You told the truth. Adults decide what they do with it." She considered that answer, then asked Anna whether she would stay until bedtime. Anna looked at Nathan first, not for permission, but to make sure he understood the choice was Emily's. "If you want me to," she said. Emily nodded. Later, in Caroline's workroom, Emily opened the lowest drawer of the sewing desk. The small brass key lay inside beside the music box and the repaired wooden doll. She picked it up and held it toward Anna. Anna did not take it immediately. "You don't have to give me anything to make me stay." "I know. You don't have to call me Mommy either." Emily looked at the key, then at the woman who had never asked her to replace anyone. "You can just be Anna," she said. Anna closed Emily's fingers around the key. "Then you keep it." Emily thought for a moment and placed it back in the drawer. When she shut the drawer, the lock clicked softly. The key was no longer needed to prove who had lied or who had been brave. It had opened what Caroline intended. Not a room, a choice. And this time, no one made it for Emily.